You all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And today I have a very special guest. Today I have with me, many of you may know him if you are a Tulsi supporter. It's Israel S Daily News, man. What's going on? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Niko? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Of course, man. Of course. It's been, like I said, it's been a little bit too long. I meant to get you on sooner, but we had a scheduling conflict. But we are here now, and we have some interesting news that we want to discuss. So recently, Bernie Sanders apologized to Joe Biden. In case you all did not know, maybe a lot of you didn't know, which is not good, but he did. And his words were probably more upsetting to me personally than the apology itself. He said that he apologized to Joe Biden, that in his eyes, Joe Biden is not corrupt and he does not have a corruption problem. Israel, how you feel about that, man? How you feel about that? I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, you know, that was one of the biggest things that got me upset, because this came after a bunch of like stories that were similar to this. Like, we all remember like the, handshake gate with Elizabeth Warren. And I feel like it's just been like 2 or 3 of these events where you're just like seeing like the passiveness of Bernie Sanders, and like a lot of people are frustrated over that and a lot of people are upset over that. I definitely got upset over it because to me it was like, why are you doing this? So I always try to find out like what is the motivation behind coming out and apologizing, not even for something that you said as a candidate against some other candidate, but one of your surrogates wrote up. I think it's Zephyr Teachout. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she wrote that article, and I was reading it, and she literally uses that old like college example of like, this is why Biden's corrupt, and then she goes, these are 3 examples of what Biden is corrupt, and so she lists her 3 examples.
Yeah, right? She wasn't even using conjecture.
Right, and it was like, okay, this is like a rational, critique of Biden and some of the corruptive, actions that he's taken in his career. So it wasn't even, to me, it was very mild. You know what I mean? It was like super mild. And then Bernie comes out and then he apologizes. And to me, I think it all ties back to this ridiculous impeachment show, because as we know, who is the person that is one of the center focuses of the impeachment? It's Joe Biden and his son. And whether or not Trump was investigating corruptive, actions by Joe Biden with the whole Ukraine thing. So it's like, I think that Bernie came out and was trying to save face with the neoliberal establishment by saying, let me get out in front of this, because if I don't, then everybody's going to say, oh, the GOP used this against us. You see, Bernie, you're just being like, a tool like for Donald Trump or something. Yeah. Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. But here's my thing. He has to really, really stop capitulating to the neoliberal establishment. Because like you said, this is coming on the heels of Warren throwing him completely under the bus. Obama stabbing him in the back, very recently. And it's becoming a pattern, right? And it's a pattern that we have to be cognizant of and we can no longer ignore. I haven't ignored it, but many people have ignored it. We can't ignore it because what is going to happen when you're in office, right? Because eventually you kind of have to wonder, are you doing this to win office, or are you doing this so you can stay in their good graces? Because now it's, people say, well, he's doing this so he can win. Then it's, well, he's doing this so he can get Medicare for all passed. Well, then it's, well, he's trying to, he's okay with bombing this country so he can stop this war. And then it rolls downhill. And for those of you who don't think that he can make grand mistakes, once again, it's the same Bernie Sanders who crafted the legislation that was then used to go into Libya and overthrow Gaddafi, which led to a slave state in Libya. We cannot pretend like this man is perfect. Nobody is asking for him to be that. But what we are asking him to do is to not normalize corruption, because that's essentially what we're seeing happening. And like, I just did a video for about an hour and a half ago where literally verbatim is caught on tape boasting about withholding aid from the Ukraine because they would not fire the prosecutor who was investigating Burisma, which his son was working for.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
it's funny how a lot of the Democrats, they won't even touch the Hunter Biden situation or anything. And everybody was begging Bernie Sanders in 2016 to go after Hillary over the email situation. And what did he do back then? Same thing he's doing now, right? He kind of backs away from it and says, nobody wants to hear about your damn emails. No, Bernie, some of us do want to hear about those damn emails.
I wanted to.
What the hell were in those damn emails?
I wanted to hear about those emails. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly.
I was very curious about those emails, and not necessarily just because of what was in them, but because of how it demonstrated, at the bare minimum, right? It demonstrated gross negligence, and it showed that she was not fit to be a president, not fit to have that type of information in her hands, where it could easily be accessed by anybody. Damn, a foreign government. It could have been accessed by our people within our government who may not have liked her and then would have leaked it subsequently. So like, it's like I said, it's frustrating to me because I think he thinks he has something to gain by apologizing, but like, bro, you gotta stand up for yourself, man. If your surrogates are going out on the limb to tell the truth, to not only to expose Joe Biden, but to help you, people are trying to compare you to Joe Biden's second, like his supporters, for whatever reason, their second choice is Bernie Sanders. Like, they're trying to pretend that Biden is the best one to beat Donald Trump. They're essentially doing what they can, not only just to expose Joe Biden, but to help your campaign and to ultimately help you win. If you are going to apologize to Joe Biden for being corrupt, what happens when you have to go toe to toe with Donald Trump? And then Donald Trump, because this is what Donald Trump does, he will bring up Joe Biden. He'll say, this is the type of, Bernie's a Democrat like everybody else, and these are what the Democrats do. He'll start going down the list of everything the Democrats have done over the last 3 years. He'll bring up Joe Biden in this impeachment testimony. He'll bring up Hunter Biden. He says, and Bernie Sanders doesn't think that this man, after everything we expose, is corrupt. And he'll call him weak. He'll call him a run-of-the-mill Democrat, and it won't end well for Bernie.
No, I think you're 100% right. And if you remember Donald Trump, man, when the whole scandal about, can I curse on here? Or?
Say that one more time?
Can I curse?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, go ahead.
All right, so when Donald Trump said, grab them by the pussy, what did he do right after on the next debate? He said, I'm going to call up everybody who Bill Clinton, or all the accusers of Bill Clinton, I'm going to invite them to the debate, and when Hillary's right there, she's going to have to face them all in the front row. And so to think, and then, Bernie Sanders is, look, I like Bernie Sanders. I just wanted to get that out there. I was supportive of him in 2016. But to think that this guy is going to claim, I'm going to go around every state, and whichever Democrat doesn't support Medicare for all, I'm going to go expose them in their states. Okay, great. But now we're seeing that you won't even attack your primary opponent, which is Joe Biden, who is the one that is, clipping at your toes. Like, it's a credibility issue, but it's also an issue of, like you said, like, is he going to have the grit to go up against someone like Donald Trump and actually, walk the walk instead of just talk the talk,
Yeah, 100%. And it's crazy that you brought that up because I had completely forgot about that. You're correct. He keeps reacting based off of them alleging that he is not a quote unquote good Democrat. And once again, I get it. People may be thinking, well, he needs to do this to win. See, here's a problem with that. There's one, let's just go ahead and talk about the inconsistency on some of his supporters' behalf. I remember at one point, Tulsi Gabbard had defended Joe Biden. And I did a show talking about how I might understand why she felt the need to defend him because of her friendship with his late son. They had deployed together, and maybe she just didn't want, I think it was actually mostly a slight at Kamala and Elizabeth Warren, but she still defended him. And I was like, look, whatever the reason may be, we cannot normalize corruption. We cannot pretend like what these people are doing is normal. Like, it's beyond, unity and aloha. These are the people that we are trying to get out of office, period, point blank. Cool. The problem was on Twitter, I remember the reactions from everybody else. I remember how, oh my, canceling Tulsi. I told you she's a neoliberal. I can't trust her. She just wants more of the same. She's trying to get a Biden VP spot. So is Bernie trying to get a Biden VP spot? Is that why he's apologizing? No.
Is he a Trojan horse Republican?
Yeah, is he a Trojan horse Republican? No, that's silly to even think something like that. But he's trying to remain quote unquote unified, whether or not we disagree with it. But here's the problem with that. Bernie has way more supporters. His complicity in this system, or in the corruption that this system has beget, like, that it's realistically more of a problem because he's the one who could end up winning. Because at the time, we didn't think Tulsi had a chance. Well, I'm not gonna say we didn't think she had a chance, but we knew that Bernie had a chance at the time. Yeah. So now we're seeing where Bernie's defending Biden, and then Tulsi defended Biden on one issue. Bernie is going so far as to say that Biden has never behaved in corrupt, or never engaged in corrupt behavior. That is insane.
especially when he was part of an administration that perpetuated the post-Bush, mentality of endless regime change war and everything like that. So to think that the vice president of Barack Obama, who expanded the two wars in Afghanistan and Iraq into 7 continents, or not continents, 7 countries, didn't have some corruptive behaviors is ridiculous. But look at what that got him, though, Niko. Joe Biden came out and he still attacked Bernie Sanders even after he apologized.
Even after.
Yeah, he
didn't even accept it.
No, he didn't accept it. He's like, now I want you to bend the knee about Social Security, even though there's video footage evidence of me saying that I'm going to cut Social Security. And, to his credit, Bernie Sanders came up with, a decent ad that, refuted that. But I still think it was weak. And then,
but he should have never accepted, never apologized to him to begin with, because it set him up for Biden to refuse that apology. And once again, it makes him look weak. And if you're a Bernie supporter, then you have to address this. You have to let him know, you can't keep doing this. We have a super chat. Gabriel, thank you very much for the super chat. I heard Bernie had to do that because he will sit on the impeachment trial and Biden could be a part of that trial and Bernie cannot be biased. And what does that mean? He can't be biased. Okay, so he can't use, I get what you're saying, and that's a cop-out argument from a hardcore supporter that doesn't want to admit that Bernie is being soft. It's probably one of those supporters who was ready to cancel Tulsi, absolutely ready to cancel Tulsi, but then won't address, because this is funny because everybody tells me, Niko, why don't you admit Tulsi is imperfect? When I'm the first one to admit she absolutely is imperfect. But I also will say in the same breath, but Bernie's imperfect too. The difference is you will never say admit Bernie is imperfect. You'll be quicker to make excuses for Bernie if you are one of those type of supporters. Whereas on the other side of that fence, if we're bro, just critique Bernie and move on, that's it.
They're unwilling to even look at what the end result would be of that. Let's say that Bernie Sanders is doing that. One, that's politically calculating, and I thought Bernie Sanders was, I say it how it is, and I'm here to defend the American people. Why is he being so politically calculating to the point where he's, apologizing for something his surrogate said? For two, if you take it to its logical conclusion, let's say Biden squeaks out this nomination and then he loses to Donald Trump. Where does that leave Bernie, who defended Joe Biden, during the impeachment process? His credibility gets lost there. So even if you are a hardcore Bernie supporter, you shouldn't be supporting behavior like this from Bernie Sanders.
You don't engage in it at all.
Exactly, yeah. Because
that's what I think, because I 100% agree. If it wasn't about the impeachment, then there would be some value in that. But the problem is, you just shouldn't. Oh, you know what? I'm not engaging one way or the other with Joe. I'll let my surrogates do what they got to do. But because I am in the Senate, then cool. I do have to stay out of it. But that's because I'm literally about to find out whether or not Joe Biden is as corrupt as they say at this very moment, and have to make a bet or a vote, based off of that. But you don't want to make a bet as dangerous as what he just made, which is you're saying, I don't believe that Biden is corrupt in any way. Like I said, I just showed a whole fucking video of him threatening to withhold evidence because of the Ukrainian government, the former Ukrainian administration, would not fire the prosecutor that was investigating his son. That is about as corrupt as you can get. So we got another super chat. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's not even you're going after him. You're just pointing out his record, which is what you're supposed to do in a primary.
Absolutely, 100%. Mitch Osborne, thank you very much for the super chat. So if Bernie can't be biased towards Biden, how about him being biased towards Trump since he's running to get him out of office? Should he recuse himself from the impeachment trial altogether? Shit, with that logic, man, look, with that logic, because he is using the impeachment trial against Trump politically. So you can't use the argument, he can't be biased towards Biden because of the impeachment, when Bernie is literally using the impeachment trial for political reasons. And some people would agree with it. I feel like you don't even have to use that, because it would be smarter to talk about everything he's done that should be impeached rather than talking about this nonsensical impeachment that was literally created to take Bernie off the campaign trail. So, but that's actually a very, very good point. I never even thought about that, Mitch. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Israel.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that, these Democrats, you mean, that they'll give Donald Trump an increased military budget and say that he's a dangerous man to have, the finger on the trigger. But when it comes to something, I think what it is that the audacity of Donald Trump, doing something to one of their own, like these elitist politicians, Joe Biden being one of those classes. I think that's what triggered these neoliberal Democrats to act on, on all of this. Remember, Nancy Pelosi didn't want to impeach George W. Bush for getting us into an illegal war in Iraq. So to believe that they have any credibility to, proceed with this impeachment and have any kind of like moral high ground is ridiculous. So I don't know why. I just don't understand it. Like, there's a civil war happening in the Democratic Party, but it seems like there are only a handful of people who are willing to acknowledge it, and most of them are Tulsi supporters.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it's just for Bernie, man. And this is, mind you, people, I want Bernie to actually win. Like, I mean, I want Tulsi to win, but I would want one of them two to win definitively. And because either way, I feel like we get a huge victory and we can actually start beginning to see some real change here. Now, with that being said, I want Bernie to win. And by win, you can't just win the primary. Like, every miscalculation that he makes, right? When we're talking about apologizing to Biden, when we're talking about propping up Warren and allowing your surrogates like David Sirota and others and Ro Khanna to prop up Warren when she was always going to be used as your biggest threat. And then, of course, she stabs you in the back. These things start piling up, right? For all the issues that Donald Trump has, if you want to talk about prospectively in the grand scheme of how, like, winning an election, not right or wrong, but just strategically winning an election. Even his detractors, they know not to attack him out in the open because he will shred your career immediately. He and Jeff Sessions have really never gotten along, but Jeff Sessions knew that one day he would need Trump. And therefore, because Jeff Sessions shut his mouth for that entire time, even as he was trying to obstruct Trump behind closed doors, Trump went out and campaigned for him in Alabama. Because once again, it was like, some quid pro quo politically, but Bernie, they don't feel that threat from Bernie that he'll call them out if they dare step on his toes, and he needs some of that. And Trump, however, if you go up against Donald Trump, he will use that. He will call Bernie weak, and it will be hard to step in front of a camera and be like, well, Trump is wrong, because he has defended Elizabeth Warren. He wrote a whole letter to Center for American Progress. He did apologize to Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Like, he did leave Tulsi hanging a couple of times, although he came back around and he did look out for her once, but like, it's disproportionate. Exactly. These are things that eventually, if you're a progressive and you are that confident Bernie is going to win, then it is time to start thinking about the next step. And the next step is Donald Trump. Go ahead.
Bernie Sanders has the squad. He's got all the squad folks and the people who are woke.
That's going to be used against him too. It is. AOC is not as popular amongst the maybe right-leaning independents, and obviously she's not popular at all amongst the Republican Party, and even progressives are beginning to question her resolve, because I mean, she tried to attack Tulsi after not mentioning her. First she used to kiss her ass, then she was not mentioning her at all after stealing some of her stealing parts of her legislation or propping up her adversaries. But then she came out and outright attacked her for voting president on impeachment, and now Tulsi's the only one who looks like she got some damn sense, because Tulsi said it was politics and games, and that's exactly what it's turned out to be.
Right. And then what's funny is, I would ask Bernie Sanders supporters, look at the facts. How long did it take AOC and the squad to back Bernie when they were going after him with the Elizabeth Warren thing, and how long did it take Tulsi? Tulsi was on it immediately,
instantly. As soon as she got to her phone. Elijah Freeman, thanks for the super chat. I'm tired of Bernie commentators. I mean, supporters say Tulsi should be Bernie's VP. She's still running a campaign. Have respect for the voters. Man, look, you know how I feel about that. I get irritated because I've always said, you can want Bernie to be the president. You can want Tulsi to be the president. But I would never, there have been people that say Bernie should drop out and support Tulsi because she's younger. I'm like, no, that's wrong. Because Bernie has every right to participate in this democracy as I do, as you do. Tulsi has every right to participate in this democracy. There's not been one single vote counted at all whatsoever, not one. So for people to say you should drop out, one, that's an insult, because you're just saying that she should drop out just in case she could become legitimate competition for Bernie. Because then once she begins to go toe to toe with Bernie, which would be a great thing for democracy, by the way, it will probably be how we know the democracy is working to some degree. But once she begins to do that, you're going to start seeing people come out and attack her again. That's what's going to happen. And to be honest with you, it would not be smart. I keep telling people this. It would not be smart, because the more you do that, the more Bernie's record starts to become scrutinized. And most people have already played their hand when it comes to Tulsi. Bernie's record, when I tell people that whenever he finally had to admit that that Barbara Lee was the only one to get the war in Afghanistan correct. She was the only one out of everybody in the House and the Senate. I said this before in a debate, and someone said, that's not true. And they didn't even research. They didn't think about it. They just, Bernie said he's anti-war. I've never heard this before. Therefore, what you were claiming must be a lie. Why the fuck would I lie about something like that? Like when I tell people about Libya, when I tell people about the fact that Bernie said that if there became a one-state solution, he didn't believe there should be one, because he said that Jewish people would cease to exist, which would inherently mean necessarily that you are assuming that Muslims would destroy them, which would mean, once again, necessarily that Muslims are inherently violent. That is Islamophobic as fuck. You can't say stuff like that, but when I tell people these are his words, they're like, oh my God, that's not true. I have to look that up. No, it's because he is as imperfect of a human being as everyone else. What he has done great has been great. What he has done wrong has been wrong. What Tulsi has done great has been great. What she has done wrong, it has been wrong, and we should acknowledge both. But Tulsi's already been scrutinized.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, she's been through the ringer more than any other candidates, I think, at this point. And it's sad, but I agree with that super chat that, the first vote hasn't even been casted. That's a lot of the problems with the primary systems. And, the GOP actually have a more democratic process than the Democrats do, because the Democrats had the super delegates for the longest time, which was basically backroom dealings, of like these elected officials who, wouldn't want their power to be, pushed or questioned.
Yes.
So if a candidate, a grassroots candidate comes up, they get to slap it down. So.
Speaking of super delegates, so we got a super chat here asking about convention predictions if Bernie doesn't hit 51%. You don't have to wonder. It's going to go to Biden. Like that's what's going to happen. If once again, the Democratic horse trading of delegates is the norm, and if Tulsi doesn't make it because of everything that happened to her that quote unquote progressives assisted with, then they only have themselves to blame for when Bernie loses. And if he gets 50%, he lost. Do you understand that? If 50% means he lost.
That's what they don't understand, is why do you think Elizabeth Warren is still in the race? Because when they get to the convention, if you have three people, you're rolling up to the convention with three centrist people, Buttigieg and Warren and Biden leading the way, and only, lonely Bernie Sanders with, let's say, 27%, even though he goes into the convention with the most delegates or whatever, they're still going to be able to take it from him, because then they're going to be able to dilute their shares together around Biden. And this is going to be to the detriment of, like you said, those quote unquote progressives, TYT and all of them, who kept pushing this, drop out and endorse Bernie, just drop out and endorse. Why are you guys running against Bernie? It's like
they haven't even used their brains yet. Why hasn't the establishment dropped out yet? Because they know they need each other. Biden cannot beat Bernie one-on-one. Yeah,
it's like I saw, I don't know if I should name drop, but I saw one of these prominent progressives who I like. He went on and he said, look at New Hampshire. If Tulsi only gave up her 7, 8, 9%, that would put Bernie Sanders ahead of Joe Biden by a lot, and it would be a lot safer, and we'd feel very, very good. And it's like, there's two things there. One, you're basically saying your candidate is so weak, he needs another strong candidate to drop out, because Bernie Sanders can't carry his own water.
And you're assuming that the fucking percentage would go to Bernie.
That was my second. Yeah, exactly. That you're going to assume that the person that pulls the most Republican and independent voters are all going to go to Bernie Sanders. It's kind of just naive.
Which is not going to happen.
It's sad that you're even making that statement.
And I've been to Tulsi's rallies, obviously. And Vrin Devon, actually, her sister tweeted something out yesterday talking about the fact that there were a bunch of conservatives at her recent rally. There were a bunch of independents at her recent rally. People who have decided, for whatever reason, some legitimate, some maybe not so legitimate, but they've already decided they're not voting for Bernie. And that's like, it is what it is. Like, I mean, it's not my job to gain those voters for him. It's his job to win those voters. It's just like it's Tulsi's job to win her voters. And the assumption, because that's all it is an assumption, and it's not even a well-founded one, that Tulsi voters that 8%, that 9%, which, by the way, those polls, if you're looking at them carefully, those are the likely Democratic primary voters. Most of Bernie's, that's why they kept getting it wrong in 2016. Guess who most of Bernie's voters were? Not likely Democratic primary voters. Guess who Tulsi's voters were? Are not likely Democratic They are the most unlikely of people who have decided this is the race I'm going to participate in. I switched over from the Republican Party to vote in this primary because I normally wouldn't be likely, but for Tulsi or for Bernie Sanders, I will be voting in this primary. That is a little caveat. I mean, it's already bad enough that their sample sizes are trash, but likely, these are people that they have cycled through their systems, people that have always participated, people that have participated in more than one election. Those aren't who they're going after. They're going after those newbies. We got a super chat real quick.
Older voters.
Yeah, that too. Cool Blue 71, thanks for the super chat. The recent poll in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada being really good for Bernie must come with caution. I do not trust the DNC. I do not trust state parties. Caution. Yeah, 100%. But I will say that if they're showing Bernie is winning in establishment polls, then he's winning. Because I've always maintained that if you look at all the raw numbers, like realistically, the man is just obliterating everybody. Like it's insane.
Like
we're seeing stuff.
They're not going to stop it at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And if it says he's 2 to 5% ahead of Biden, he's probably really 15 or 20% ahead of Biden. Because once again, they're only talking about likely primary voters from a very, very small sample size, and Bernie's not going after the likely. Bro, he lost to Hillary by 3 million. Lost to Hillary. Okay, so let me put those quotations up. He lost to Hillary by 3 million voters, bro. He has 1 million volunteers. He lost by 3 million voters. He has over 1 million volunteers, and generally only about 9 to 10 million people participated in the Democratic primary. Bruh, that is insanity. I seriously doubt that Biden is pulling that much away from Bernie Sanders. Like, every one of those votes that Biden got in those polls, he's going to need. Because the unlikely primary voters, that's who Bernie's going after, and that's who Tulsi's going after. Elijah Freeman, thanks for the super chat. It's the same as Hillary supporters telling Bernie voters to drop out and support her before the primaries are over. Where's your consistency? Hey, I'm right there with you, bro. I'm right there with you. Go ahead, Israel.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say, it's funny because, like, Joe Biden is kind of feeling the pressure. Like, we saw that spasm that he did. I think it was yesterday.
That was freaky.
Yeah, that was crazy. Where, like, that reporter just kept, like, annoying him and saying, hey, why wasn't Bernie's apology enough? And he's like, why? And it's like,
why are you freaking out, man? Bro, because you just freaked out on me. Relax.
I know. I was just like, damn, Joe, hold it together.
All right, man. So, do you have any last words before we cut it out? For everybody who wants to see his Israel's show, I have the YouTube link in the description, so you can go check that out.
People can reach me at Big Talk, Little Talk. I cover news and politics every day, so go ahead and check that out. We do a lot of fun graphic stuff over there, so it's a good time. And like you said, on my Twitter, people can hit me up on Twitter. It's at Israel's Daily. Over on Twitter. So yeah, I appreciate it, man. I had a lot of fun, and thank you so much for having me on, Niko.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. For everybody else, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you go follow him. His Twitter is in the bottom left of the screen if you're watching from YouTube live right now, and his link to his YouTube channel is in the description. Other than that, everybody, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.